The first time I heard the growl, I thought it was in my head. By the second time, the forest went dead silent, and the man I just called sketchy turned around and said the 8 words that would save my life. Follow me now or you're bare food. Welcome to Plot Twist Revelations, where the stranger you're sure is the villain might be the only reason you make it home. Tonight's story is about fear, judgment, and the day a creepy guy on the trail turned out to be the only person standing between us and something hunting in the trees. Looking back, that day on the hiking trail was the turning point. Jason had been buzzing with energy from the moment he shook me awake. "Fresh air, man. It's what we need," he said, practically shoving my hiking boots into my hands as if his enthusiasm alone could make me enjoy being outside. I'd rather have stayed in bed with my inhaler and some bad TV, but the way he grinned at me, like we were kids again instead of tired adults, made it hard to say no. So I let him drag me out of the city and into the hills. The early morning sun filtered through the trees, spilling gold across the dirt path. Leaves rustled overhead. Twigs snapped beneath our boots, the rhythmic crunch syncing with our breathing. The air smelled like damp earth and pine sap, clean, sharp, nothing like the exhaust and fried food I was used to. "This is it, Tom. Just look at this view," Jason shouted, already a few steps ahead of me as we reached a small clearing. I rolled my eyes, but I couldn't stop a small smile from sneaking in. The horizon stretched out in layers of green and blue. "Yeah, it's nice and all," I puffed, pulling my backpack strap higher. "But I'd prefer not to have to clutch my inhaler for dear life." "Come on, Mr. Couch Potato. A little exercise never hurt anyone," Jason laughed, voice echoing faintly between the trunks. He sounded so alive out here, like this was his natural habitat. Me. I was still trying to convince my lungs this wasn't a personal attack. That's when we saw him. Up ahead on a large rock off the side of the trail sat a figure in dark, tattered clothes, hunched over something in his hands. His back was to us, shoulders curved, hair messy, like he'd slept right there. A cold ripple of unease crawled up my spine. "Dude, what's that guy doing?" I whispered, automatically slowing my pace and drifting behind Jason like he started toward the man like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Are you serious?" I hissed. He looked sketchy. The guy's clothes were dirty, his posture tense. Everything about him screamed, "Leave him alone. Turn around." This is how horror movies start. Jason waved off my fear with a grin. "What's the worst that could happen? He's probably just taking a break." I stayed rooted where I was, anxiety clawing at my chest. I'd learned to trust that feeling. The tightness, the prickling between my shoulder blades, like someone had just dimmed the lights on my reality. "Hey," Jason called, lifting a hand. "Everything okay over there?" The figure stilled. Then slowly he turned. He had a scruffy beard, sunken eyes, and a face etched with lines that made it impossible to tell his age. His stare pinned us like we were intruders. Every instinct in me screamed, "Dangerous." "Just checking in," Jason said, maintaining that easy tone he used on customer service reps and stray dogs alike. "You hiking alone?" The man's jaw tightened. "Leave me alone," he said, turning back to whatever he'd been working on. My heart was hammering so loud I could barely hear the leaves anymore. I leaned close to Jason. "Dude, we should back off. He looks dangerous. I'm serious. This is bad vibes central." Jason rolled his eyes but didn't move away. He never did know when to back down. Suddenly, the man snatched up a small bundle beside him and tossed it aside. The movement was sharp, urgent. "You need to get out of here," he snapped. "Now." "What?" Jason blurted, blinking. "Why?" "Just trust me," the man said, standing up at full height and finally facing us fully. His eyes were sharp now, focused, not wild. "See," I hissed under my breath. "Told you he's trouble. Let's go." But Jason was still anchored in place. "Wait, why isn't it safe? What's going on?" The man clenched his jaw, like he was arguing with himself more than with us. "Just go," he barked, jabbing a finger down the trail. "Go back the way you came." Jason straightened, finally recognizing the edge in his tone. "You can't just tell us to leave without explaining." The man sighed, shoulders sagging as if weighed down by something heavy and invisible. "Fine," he muttered. "There's a bear somewhere close by. I've seen it stalking the trail. You're in its territory." My heart dropped straight into my stomach. "Bears," I repeated, my voice jumping an octave. "Is he serious? Jason, we need to get the hell out of here." Adrenaline flooded my body. My instincts now fused with every nature documentary I'd ever half-watched. Wild animal. Claws. Teeth. We are not winning that fight. But Jason didn't budge. "Okay, how do you know this?" he asked, still suspicious but now laced with concern. "What were you doing out here?" The man's eyes hardened. "I'm protecting people," he said. "I've been camping out here for weeks, tracking it. Saw it chase after another hiker last week." "Protecting people," I scoffed. "More like making them nervous." I cast a frantic glance at the trees, half expecting fur and teeth. "I wouldn't do that," the man cut in, suddenly very serious. "They're overwhelmed this season. Too many tourists, too little staff. It won't help you in time." Jason studied him, eyes narrowed. "And you think you can just handle it on your own?" he challenged. "You don't even look fit for this." The guy snorted. "Look, I'm not here to prove anything to you," he said. "I know what I'm doing. I'm a wildlife ranger, and I'm trying to keep you safe." The words hit like an unexpected slap. "A ranger," Jason repeated, standing a little taller as if that single word rewrote the last few minutes. "Why didn't you say so?" "Because," the man said, dragging a hand through his hair, "I'm sick of people treating me like I'm some threat just because I don't look like your brochure version of a hero. I don't have a shiny uniform or a clean-shaven face, so everyone assumed." I felt the burn of shame creep up my neck. He wasn't wrong. "So you're actually trying to help us?" I asked, my voice softer now, the edge dulling. He nodded once. "But you two need to trust me and follow instructions. No time to waste." Doubt still flickered in my chest like a stubborn flame, but something else was there now too. The uncomfortable awareness that I had made an entire judgment about this man in seconds, based on clothes and posture and a rough voice. Before I could say anything else, Jason and I locked eyes, shared fear, shared realization, and then we moved. We followed him off the main path, onto a narrow trail I never would have noticed on my own. Branches scratched at my arms as we slipped through the undergrowth. The smells shifted, from clean mountain air to something muskier, earthier, tinged with danger. The ranger walked with purpose, scanning the trees, the ground, the invisible signs only he seemed to understand. His steps were sure, his senses tuned to a frequency I couldn't hear. My breathing was loud in my own ears, every inhale dragging the forest scent deeper. "Why do you do this?" Jason asked between breaths, because of course he'd decide this was a good time for conversation. "Camp out here, I mean." The ranger glanced back at us briefly, eyes softer now. "Because someone has to," he said. "This area is beautiful, but beautiful doesn't mean safe. Not for people who don't know what they're walking into." The words settled over me, heavier than my backpack. We rounded a bend. Another growl rumbled behind us, closer this time, edged with a sound that made my skin crawl. A faint, wet crunch like jaws on something that used to be alive. "Don't look back," the ranger said quickly. "Just keep moving. You're almost out of its range." I hadn't planned on looking back anyway. We walked faster. The path widened. Here and there, I could see faint signs we were nearing civilization again. Trampled earth, a stray water bottle someone had dropped, the faint sound of distant voices carried on the breeze. "We have to pick up the pace," the ranger said. "Once you're near the trailhead, the noise and numbers will keep it away. Don't stop until you're at the parking lot." "Thank you," I managed, my voice shaking. "For all of this." He shrugged, but there was warmth behind the motion. "It's my job," he said. "But that doesn't mean I don't care." Then he looked at me more directly, and the weight of his words landed harder. "Remember this," he said. "Not everyone who looks rough around the edges is a villain, and not everyone with a badge always has your—" We stepped out from the shadow of the trail into open space. Cars. People. The smell of sunscreen and engine oil. Normalcy. The ranger stopped just before the threshold, as if there was an invisible line only we were allowed to cross. "You two be careful out there," he said. "And seriously, don't judge a book by its cover." I nodded, throat tight. "We won't, not again." He gave a small nod of his own, then turned back toward the trees, swallowed by the same wilderness we'd been so eager to escape. "That was intense," Jason said once we were alone, leaning against the car like his legs had turned to jelly. "Yeah," I said quietly. "And eye-opening." As we drove home, the city skyline slowly rose to meet us, gray and familiar. But I couldn't stop thinking about the man on the rock, the way I'd labeled him dangerous. I realized we'd crossed more than just a stretch of trail that day. We'd crossed a threshold in how we saw people, and how quickly we decided who was safe and who wasn't, who was a threat and who was a savior. The man we'd feared turned out to be the only one who knew how to get us out alive. He wasn't wearing a clean uniform. He wasn't smiling reassuringly. He wasn't holding a megaphone and giving a safety briefing at the trailhead. He was tired, rough-looking, annoyed, and absolutely, unequivocally on our side. I'd almost learned that too late. Later that night, lying in bed with the city noise seeping through the window, I thought about all the people I'd categorized in my head over the years. Sketchy. Safe. I thought about the times I'd trusted the polished and doubted the worn, believed the smooth talkers and dismissed the quiet warnings. Maybe the real danger isn't always in the shadows. Maybe sometimes it's in our own certainty. Maybe it was that, for the first time, I realized I'd rather be wrong about a person's rough exterior than blind to the people quietly protecting me from dangers I'll never even see. If you've ever misjudged someone at first glance, written them off, labeled them in your head, decided their role in your story before they ever spoke a word. You already know how easy it is to do what I did. The hard part is what comes after. What you do when the person you were sure was the villain turns out to be the one who kept you alive. That's when you find out whether you're willing to rewrite the story or cling to the version where your instincts were always right. For me, that rewriting started on a rocky trail under filtered sunlight, with my heart beating too fast and a stranger saying, "Follow me now, or you're bare food." And I'm glad, for once, I listened. Because ignoring him wouldn't just have cost me my pride. It might have cost me everything. If this story made you think twice about how you judge people, the stranger on the bus, the quiet coworker, the person who doesn't look the part, then maybe it did its job. There are people out there who will never get credit for the dangers they quietly pull other people away from. People who will never look like heroes in a brochure. People who operate in the shadows, not for applause, but because someone has to. Sometimes, the roughest-looking person on the trail is the only one who knows where the real danger is. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is listen. This was Plot Twist Revelations. If you've ever had your expectations flipped, if someone you feared turned out to be the one who saved you, share your story in the comments. Like the video if it made you pause. Subscribe if you want more stories where the truth isn't what it seems, and remember, not every threat has claws, and not every protector wears a badge you can see.